for coming, everybody, and for everybody on the webcast from New Zealand and Denmark for the most part. Um, Before we get started, I just wanted to say a few words about my mom's last 6 months because everything happened really quickly. She might have not have been all that communicative with a lot of you in those final months as well. In December, she was walking her dogs a couple miles a day in the hills every day. By June, she had lost the ability to move most of her body except her right arm. And towards the end, it took a tremendous effort for her to speak and even to swallow food without choking. ALS is a shitty disease for many reasons. First, to diagnose it, they just eliminate the diseases that they can accurately diagnose, like brain tumors and other horrible things. Then they just diagnose based on the symptoms that you have. For that reason, the diagnosis can take a really long time for some people. For my mom, that diagnosis came very quickly. And that's because her symptoms were progressing so rapidly. So the typical prognosis for ALS is 2 to 5 years for the be much longer, and it can be much shorter, unfortunately. The prognosis, though, is the same for everyone. It's a steady, unmitigated decline and then death. The doctor showed us a helpful chart to that effect. There are really no treatments or cures, just strategies to make the decline a little bit more comfortable. To go from being very active to bedridden in such a short period of time and with a disease that is a death sentence was difficult for my mom, as you can imagine. I also know that many of you wanted to see her and were turned away in those final months. It was her wish to deal with this privately. While this may not have been how you guys or how I wish that she had dealt with it, we did respect that and we honored the wishes. I want you to know, though, that if you were turned away, it wasn't for lack of love for you on her part, and it wasn't personal at all. She loved you all. Those were some of the last words she said to us. I love you all. My mom lost the ability to do most of the things that made her who she was. Walking the dogs, working in the garden, baking in Soraya, charity work, book club, all the minor important things in life. So we watched a lot of TV, sports, TV series, and her all-time favorites, which after Jeopardy are movies featuring the death of Countess Nazis. That would always improve her mood. I also want you to know that while her final days were difficult, she was able to have a few laughs, like when after starting hospice that first night, she whispered, she went out to Soraya, I am drunk. Or when I gave her lorazepam one morning, threw a syringe into her mouth and said, hyper which you only get if you watch the third season of The White Lotus. My family is a tremendous debt to a lot of people. First, to her friends who provided comfort and home cooked meals. Her family in New Zealand, especially Val and Sarah, who came to be with us, with her and with us when we most needed it. And those who were able to come and provided emotional support anyway. I want to thank Raquel, who was one of her caregivers, who kept in close touch with her even after suffering a great tragedy in her own life. We couldn't have gotten through this without them. The team at Kaiser's ALS clinic and hospice were kind and they were very capable. Like many of you, I'm not a fan of our healthcare system, but I can tell you with confidence that she was in excellent hands in her final days. I want to introduce you to Sandy, the Spurl here. It was a gift from one of her niece's daughters, and she kept it close to her until yeah. One of the people who really wanted to make it for my mom's final days but couldn't is one of her closest nieces, Michelle, or Mouse, as we call her. I asked her to record a video and do our video at Christian for today, and she enthusiastically agreed. But she actually got the answer and she threw it in to do it in person. So I think you do some job.
Hi everyone, I'm Max. Elissa was my auntie and my Northern Hemisphere mum. I'm here on my own today, but I do carry my New Zealand family with me. They're all watching on Zoom right now. Auntie Lizzie's sister and my mum Val. My sister and brothers Sarah and Jared, their partners Adam, Dina, my husband Aaron, and all of our children, Phoenix, Ava, Izzy, Becky, Maya, Sunny, Lando, and Raven. We love Elissa so much. She has been a huge part of our lives across generations, and she always will be, even though she's gone. It's really hard to write a speech that accurately reflects the force of nature. Auntie Elissa, or Al for short, was her own weather pattern, and she brought with her so much energy and love, whether it was in sunshine or in rain, or occasionally a really, really cranky storm. I do my best to give you the highlights of this spectacular love of life, and I want to as I do. It's not really anything up to the brilliance. Elissa was born in Auckland, New Zealand. She was the youngest and feistiest of 4 kids, John, Val, and Quentin. And from all the stories we tell about her and our family, she was a sparky, headstrong, cheeky individual from day one. And it's no surprise that her first and most enduring nickname was Spitfire. My great uncle named her that, and it really fit. She sparkled with laughter and warmth, but she was not afraid to say what she thought. And God forbid you got on her bad side, she'd be bloody terrifying. Tiny, but tenacious, she always stood up for what she thought was right, and that's one of the qualities that I love most about her. She made the most of what we would call a less than ideal childhood. It was not amazing, and she emerged as a loving and passionate young woman. And from the moment that she was out in the world at large, she pursued life with community and humour. She initially trained in psychology alongside my mum at National Women's Hospital in Auckland, forming lifelong friendships and beginning of a love for all things medical. And then she met my lovely Uncle Henry, and they were married, and their first child, the very splendid Lynn, was born. They immigrated to Los Angeles in the middle of the 70s and set up life there. With Uncle Henry beginning his career as a draftsman, it would have taken a huge amount of courage to move halfway across the world, but I'll face it the way that she faced anything that was challenging, determined to find building plans. Then 2 more gorgeous boys were born, 7, and finally grew. Across continents, Elissa and my mum kept religiously in touch, sending parcels and letters, and even messages recorded on cassette tapes, there's anyone that remembers those, back and forth. Across the globe by the world's slowest delivery system, surface mail. This was the early 80s, there really wasn't email that was reliable yet, so it took months and months to get this to arrive. So when you got a parcel jammed with Halloween plans and decorations that arrived just in time for Halloween, you knew that I would be planning that since like the previous Easter. She took so much care and preparing stuff for us and sending it over. My first and most enduring memory of Al was listening to her on a cassette tape at Christmas and hearing the warmth and smile in her voice. And that is the way that I always remember her. Warm, smiling, twinkling in the way she liked. Though she was homesick from New Zealand a lot, she was an infectiously loving person. And she had enough love to fill both hemispheres of this planet. Despite the thousands of miles that we lived apart, I always made sure that we were fulfilled and included and celebrated. She was the best auntie imaginable. She brought the magic with her. We used to all cram in the car at 5 a.m. to go to the airport and work to every single time that she grew in. We never got the gift of seeing her. She was like the fifth member of the Beatles. We were really possessive of her and we coveted her, and all of our friends at home knew that if Auntie Elissa was visiting, they would not see us for the full duration of their stay, like we just disappeared to be with her. And that was true as much when we were adults as kids. I remember being up all night at parties and catching a taxi to mum's house at 6 a.m. to get enough time for our to arrive. I know that Al lived a kind of double life. Here, their half family anchored at her side with her family, and then the soul contact in New Zealand. She made the best of both places, and I can feel her spirit so strongly when I sit there under the atmosphere of roads, just like I can feel it when I'm out of water and the political Northlands. When I was 14, I could stay at Hunter Road for 6 months. I was really sloppy teenager, and my mum and dad put enough there, basically, like, get out. And that Al and Reno took me in. There's so much about who they are as people. It was a really incredible time in my life, and it cemented an extraordinary bond for Al and I. She saw through my crankiness, and she saw this what I really was. And she recognized my spirit and made me feel seen and valued. And she loved me in spite of my tribute dates, and she loved me because of them. And I don't exaggerate when I say she was my second mum. She's taken the secrets that she knows about me to the grave. And she showed me that I could trust her, and I did. I trusted her with my life and my heart. It's been a real profound sadness to me that I could not be here to hold her hand as your own life was living on. In the last few months, I've had time to reflect on our relationship with Al a lot. And today it feels very important to say to Ian, and Steve, and Marie, and Soraya, thank you so much for sharing it with us. We took up a lot of real estate in her life, and you guys were so generous. When she wasn't being a legend to her family in New Zealand, she was the most amazing mother to her boys. She adored them, and she celebrated them, and cheered them on, and you just could not imagine a better mum. Sports games, running events, any school event, holiday adventures, every single minute, every single day she was loving it. I have never once heard Al speak with anything but love and pride for the boys, never ever once. And that is another of the traits that I admire about her so much. She was fiercely loyal. But she loved you to death, and she loved you forever. And you three were the centre of the world, as well as her heart. Al was married to my Uncle Nene for more than 50 years, and that is an extraordinary thing to be treasured and admired. Uncle Nene wrote a tribute to her, personally in the form of a limerick. And it goes like this. For 55 years as my wife, you've been the centre of my life. We've shared 3 lovely boys and many other joys. Your absence cuts us like a knife. When the boys were much older, Elissa went back to school, and she obtained a degree in nursing here in California and graduated at Pedicure class. Honestly, she was born to be a nurse. She had care and empathy in spades, and she was truly brilliant at it. After a simple nuclear with her babies that she found really hard in her heart, she landed in oncology as a lead nurse at Linda, one of the country's most prestigious oncology hospitals. I went my visits to Riverside. I asked if I could go and see her at the workplace, and Uncle Rene drove me and she showed me around. That's one of my best memories ever of Al. She took me around in her fern and kiwi pattern scrubs, and every single patient we her, every single patient lit up when they saw her. Some of them were terminally ill, incredibly unwell, but they managed to smile and joke with her, and they told me how much they loved her, and they knew all about the kids. They knew them by name. They knew about the man. They knew about the dogs. And I honestly think it was the best hour I ever had with Al. That was so practical to be honest. She just made such an impact on people's lives, and I never saw it as much as I saw it there that day. And later, when my dad died of cancer, Al's knowledge and her empathy from her job really came home to life in my family. She was a pillar of strength for all of us, and we're very lucky. I think that the only time Al's love for her family came close to being eclipsed was when Soraya was born. Oh my God. Her love for her grandchild put her under the moon and stars every night and watched the sky with the sun every morning. I can that from the moment that you arrived, you completed Al's universe. And I know that you know that. You guys kindred spirits, and you always will be. Uncle Rene got another limerick. that isn't on a view anywhere, she's just an idea. There's just one more poem that also highlights the rare and your granddaughter. She is such a delight, I suspect that it might be designed with what you taught her. If it wasn't nursing, it wasn't family, then it was great big, go on family dogs. Aussie Shepherds, 2x2, romp their way through Ranchero roads. Taz, those are my boy, Tahi, Brewer, Sawyer, and Ara Golden maybe on Billy. I remember talking to her on the phone once, when Finn and Sawyer were really little. And she was really grumpy because she slept beside me on the floor all night to comfort them, and they were just like missing their mum and the other parties. In her 70s, you know, sleeping on the hard floor, just so kind. My family adopted a rescue dog this Christmas, and I was like the new dog on the hotline for me. She had best advice and support together. Like, she just has all those patients and connected with animals. It's another trait I really love about her. In the last few years, Elle volunteered at a sister food thrift shop, coming to her underprivileged test. It gave her a lot of joy and satisfaction. She also spent heaps of time sending mailers out to demographics. Politics in her adopted home made her furious and passionate. And I really respected how much work she did to try and make a positive change. She really cared about people, and she showed it in most simple ways. Like asking people she met in restaurants or in shops or the bank how they were, and really wanting to know, really listening to the answer. She was curious, and she was always proactive, walking the walk and talking the talk, in the blended American and Kiwi accent. I'm so sad that we can see our goal. And I don't really think that I've come to terms with it, if I'm honest. And I'll get back on the plane to New Zealand tomorrow, and I'll think all the things I should have said standing here right now. This is the one who held my hand. And walked down aisle, and I'm there. She's the one that drove me all over Los Angeles for meetings. When I briefly tried and failed to get a fancy American agent. This is the woman who collected me in a sobbing heap from LA to airport and brought me home for less than 48 hours to Ranchero Road because she wasn't going to be sad in transit. She sat with me when I was 14 in an Orange County Rec theatre, holding my hand for the hour that we waited for an audition for a terrible Dylan Thomas play. You know, like the price stank, and I was a terrible actor, and she, you know, would be really painful. She just smiled the whole way through it. I bloody love her. I love her so much. And I use the present tense because I will go on loving her. And think of her when I get tweeted sitting in New Zealand, or if I'm getting water, if I'm making biscuits using her famous chocolate chip recipe, or trying and failing to complete across the earth. Our love speak to her, she knew she was loved in return. And in the end, I think that is what matters. The last months of her life were wrapped in family and in togetherness, and I know how profoundly moved by that she was. Auntie Lisa's is a light that will never go out. So I'm really encourage everyone here today to speak something her name and sharing stories about her, so that the love she had and shared so willingly can continue to live the world. I don't want to leave you. I love you. I like to call Auntie Lisa's granddaughter, Soraya, up to speak to you. My father. If you aren't familiar with the word farmer, it's Danish for the word father's mother. I never liked calling her grandma because she wasn't ever just my grandma, she was mom. She raised me just as much as my parents did, and loved me more than I thought anyone could have. It was the purest form of unconditional love I have ever experienced. There was something about her presence that made the world feel less heavy. When life felt overwhelming, just hearing her voice or hearing her presence brought a kind of warmth that nothing else did. I can still smell her kitchen at Christmas, the sweetness of Abel's finger in the air, the warmth of egg burritos on the morning. She brought magic into the ordinary. Handmade advent calendars, even when I was far past childhood. gingerbread houses, messy and full of laughter, morning walks with the dogs and the hills. These moments were not just traditions, they are part of who I am and they always will be. She showed up for everything. Every game, every performance, every time it happened. She saved every program from every show I was ever in, and she made me believe that my dreams were worth chasing. When it was time for me to leave for college across the country, she was there to move me in and set up my new life. And when we had to say goodbye, she held me tightly and cried, not because she wanted to leave me back, but because her love for me ran at me. And she's still with me, in the way I meet in the kitchen, in the quiet peace of a morning walk, in the joy of watching baby shows on TV. I could stand here for hours, listening all the ways she shaped my life, all the ways she loved me, and all the ways I understood. But instead, I would like to honor her the way that I know she would have wanted in music. She was always my biggest supporter, and a few days before she passed, she sat us down to watch every video she had in her phone and see. So even though it hurts, and even though I don't know if I can get through this without falling apart, I'm really proud it because I know that this is what she would have wanted. So I'm more responsibility. And there's a slideshow to go along with it.
Yeah, we could start the slideshow. Now it's just another show. I looked at from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow remains lost. I wish that I told. So years and years and years to say I love I look like that friends are at this
Shape their eyes, face, and change. For something's lost, words of sweet. I looked at life from both sides now. Now with and still somehow into my solutions I recall. I really don't know why. I looked at life from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow into my solutions I recall. I really don't know why. My auntie says, I'm loving and Virginia, and so can we speak to me?
Emergency supplies. It's fun, like the stories of growing up in family. And I know that some of you aren't there, but Renee was a very skilled poet and butterfly. And I think the best ones are always spoken of her. So every once in a while, we have a float across Dave and my desk with a limerick for something. So we all need Elissa in different ways, and it's really hard to capture someone. I can't remember when I actually met her, but I do remember that somewhere in the conversation, she said as a child, she was known as Spitfire. I smiled and thought, man, still are. So this is mostly a series of reflections and memories that make up Elissa. She made a great pavlova. I think all of you know what this is, but it's a wonderful dessert. And we all look forward to having it, but especially talking to you. Elissa and Renee introduced us to growing passion fruit and how to use them. And now there are another two main passion fruit, and they are used in making pavlova. And from time to time, we trade them back and forth in the heaps and well. I remember her planning and making complicated and beautiful cakes for Soray's birthdays. She loved her hummingbirds and Oreo feeders. She could see them from her hospital bed at home. She loved her dog. And when I was able to visit, they were ever present the first time on the hospital bed. And the last time they were on my lap. So they were there forever for her. 7 years ago, Dave and I bought our classic Louis and moved to Aria after a Game of Thrones character. And as soon as Mrs. saw it, she said, that's what I want. And soon after, a silver Tesla was in their garage, and she named it Flower 320. And her license plate here to the which leads to the fact that she loved New Zealand and going home to her family. And she loved a good New Zealand summer film. I rarely saw her drink anything else. Dave and I especially remember flying home with Renee and Elissa from Peru and Galapagos trip. We landed in Miami. Elissa was not a citizen, but she had her treasures green card. Somehow, Spitfire managed to say something going through immigration about the value of her green card, which apparently ticked off immigration for, and they told her detention for over an hour. We had gone ahead, we had their luggage, we had no idea what had happened. And we almost missed our flight home before we saw the thing on the hall. So the next thing I remember is going into the swearing in ceremony in Los Angeles when she became a citizen. Actually a dual citizen, that no more airport detention for her. She delighted in her sons and their accomplishments. I know that Sylvia was alive for life and how much pride she did all of her. She played Wordle regularly with family, and every once in a while, I would mistakenly get a text that said something like Wordle and 4. I tried to play in her memory and I'm too bad at it. She wrote lots of postcards to voters for each of the last few elected cycles for the Democratic candidate, even if she was either part. Somewhere along the way, she joined some of us as a member of assistance group and became a part of our thrift shop group. Darren, Holly, Lori, and I were all here today. We worked a monthly shift at the thrift shop, selling all kinds of things. And somehow, it may have been her idea, one of us suggested bringing in cookies in rotation to sustain ourselves with each of the thrift shop. Yes, that's saying that we got. One of the first cookies she brought were Anzac biscuits, which are cookies, but a cookie with peas and Aussies, developed during World War II to send soldiers free. We all love them. We make them, however, require something called golden syrup, and it's not very easy to find here. So on her next trip home, she returned, and each of us had a bottle of golden syrup. We had lots of laughs, and she was good at counting money. This is evidently an acquired skill, since some of us aren't very good at it, or were either. And she also teamed with me, Paul. It helped with our signature program called Operation School Bell, where we help kids with few resources to get weekly clothes at the school. Together, I think we helped graduate in kids. And there's the truth. Together, we, Dale, Sharon, Joanne, Bill, Doris, Lynn, Judy, and I, most of us are good. I've laughed and read and complained over books for a number of years. Book was read this past Wednesday, posted in the Blackwood County and Bond, and reflecting on the day. There are some of the things that we did. He had a quirky sense of humor. Maybe it came from growing up down under, but it always caught you slightly off guard. There was a special sparkle in Spitfire's eyes, so she wrote a book that most of the rest of us hated. And she left no doubt that she had book was a waste of time with it sucks. She was compassionate and supporting of others, and the bit of our resident nurse along with Gail. We all needed template from time to time. She and Joanne always looked for the piece of pepperoni pizza that had most pepperoni on it. Pepperoni pizza was a staple of the food, and it was a bit of a contest as to who got the size of pizza. She had an all-purpose phrase for times of frustration and even amusement, and Michelle was helping her. This is only someone with an accent could do it right. It was
Bloody hell.
I can't duplicate how she said it. Michelle just did it perfectly, and it always cracked us up. One day at thrift shop, she and I were looking at the same register, and they the word thing she had a mask on. And as we were checking her out, she asked how old we were. So we politely told her, and then she said through her mask, "Well, I'm older than you, and I got fewer wrinkles." So as soon as she left, Elissa turned to me and said,
Bloody hell.
I couldn't stop laughing. I'm sure that's the customers probably absolutely. I last saw Elissa when she made me the day before her sister Val and we Sarah. and take the drop off and food. At that point, she wasn't dating this people, and I wasn't sure how well she goes with my questions or the conversation. But as I was getting ready to leave, she gestured for my attention and holding her phone. The shocking began and down over the eye and looked for the reading this month. It was Freddie Bachman's my friend. She was still with us. I don't know how much she was able to listen to the book, perhaps not much. The main character in this book is Elissa, and she truly is a spitfire, and she had a quirky sense of humor. And there's no more fitting last book for Lisa. So if any, I hope I can get through this. I'd like to paraphrase something from my friends that I love. I think might reflect with this. It was a conversation between an adult and Lisa about law. The adult says, you need to be with everybody. The person you lost. Lisa says, yes, it's like I see her out of the corner of my eye. The adult reflects. Those are little winks, like playing hide and seek with you. So every time you see her out of the corner of your eye, is for people to. It's on that TV. And I like, now that's my TV. I'm a piece of. Yes, you. I drink green now. Well, good to see everyone here on your Saturday, but it's happy. It's so many things. New and love this. I know so many. My name is Debbie, so yeah, and for Deb is it coming out, Deb's first, she sometimes calls me. And we were neighbors for many years. And when the boys were young, my daughter was young. That's a week, Miss Charlotte, Sarah, but I was off, so I'm hoping and told her leave. I believe. And I told her to do it, but those are great times. Being her young family girl is I did. I went to nursing school and graduated, and years later, she said, you know what? I've been thinking a lot about it. Things like that. And I'm so thrilled because I knew that was going to be a perfect role. And she went to the same school as I had, and eventually went to San Diego and had time, but we frequently go to the science street, find the bonds, and always try to connect. Maybe we can talk for maybe 6 months a year or so. We were just like instantly back. And hearing some of the stories, particularly from Michelle, I think made me realize how much it just adored her and why we hit it off so much. Because we both have these kind of pretty personalities that not everybody well, hey, not everybody adores, but in any case, we had great times. And I remember we always had a little ritual once we began to, be friends, and she'd call me out and she'd say, Dad, it's 7 o'clock. I'm over for a run and go. And she's been doing her chores and I'd be doing my things. And of course, come over, we just sit and have tea and coffees and other little museum specialty like that biscuit, and little badmintons, and have little others. And this is always with a distant connection. And my daughter was going around the time, just a little bit effort, younger kids were just like neighborhood kids, free flowing. Several years east, as they were going next door, the safe assumption was to go there, with kids in a room down the street later and have our own little party. And it just followed back to our house, after it was very fun. So these are just kind of some of the random memories and things that she liked joy is so many. And I'm treasuring her friendship as well as Renee and memory boys who I haven't
really got to know the adults or anything, but, they're wonderful kids and she adored them all. Thank you for your beautiful songs, Soraya. You know, she told you good for a long time. She got to meet at least one of my grandchildren, which I was thrilled. And so, I didn't have any from there, I just wanted to share what a love she was, what a spark she was, you all that. But she was like the sister that I need. I had two sisters, they're not here, so I can't tell them, but they weren't the kind of sister that was, she had. And, wish you all well, I hope listening to her. Thank you.
As much as they had been already served them, I speak to them. Well, I attempted to look back at everything, we keep all the guys, and we had to get things we've done together and how long we've known each other. I suddenly realized that I was looking back more at my life, oh, so much my life, as it was missing. We've been friends for over 40 years. We started out, I met her, Stephen, and my daughter went soccer practice together at, Victoria Elementary, 9/11, especially, I mean, I looked up, I got it off and run the bicycle path, and he just walked up to me and said, "Would you please let me run with you?" And I said, "Sure." And so we started running together. And so I thought, well, this is such a great lady, let's invite him to be part of our friends here, because he goes, and Elissa. So we started going out and doing things together, doing a camping, and we started doing the holidays together, everybody had a holiday. Was when they did, 4th of July, is on the hill. And then we can see all the fireworks, the good Christmas. The Strokes did, even Memorial Day, I believe. And Alvin did Labor Day. And we watched our kids growing up, as we became friends, we did camping together, we did kids together. The ladies went to the every summer to shop because that's what this love. But this and I kept running. So we decided we were going to run the LA Marathon by the time I was starting. Fortunately, I'm a little older than her. So we used to run every Saturday. We try to extend our run so that maybe we could finish the race. And then we would go to the office and have take the leaders. I have Coke and she had tea. Well, we did run the LA Marathon, and of course, this evening, she would always stop with me, but that's okay, she never had to brag about it too much. And we ran a couple half marathons after that, but we kept being friends, we kept doing things, there's so many holidays and vacation, and watching everybody grow up, the graduations, weddings, and we put in the grandkids, and we showed the pictures for everybody. On the holidays, we went to Zion almost every year for Thanksgiving, Michelle will remember that, because we did too, she went with us. In the beginning, when we tried to do walkers with adults, describing, you really had a problem with heights. But there's not a moment in my life when I can't think of this, thinking positive about. I had some heart problems and I needed to change my lifestyle. We got some of the sweets like the Pavlova. Which story behind that is when we got married, I discovered the Pavlova. And Elissa made a lot of the cooking and she made the Pavlova desserts. by the time I said that it had laughed, so to get me another one, I think I have to. So for my birthday, birthday, she made my mom tell me over to me. And nobody else got it. So when I committed to change my lifestyle, and my now new heart study with, Kaiser. Leslie said, you know, I'm kind of thinking I need to do some, although she's the best person, one of the best person, and the most, probably the best meeting of all of us. So every other Thursday for over a year, Listen, Renee and Malcolm and I exchanged invitations, and we used to book, our English. And we got she got recipes from the week, so I'll give you glad about that, of course. And, some of them were okay, some of them were good, some of them, let's say, you never eat again, we probably finished. But it was okay, because, you know, you only need to embarrass if you put something real bad, I didn't know, because this night. They're so full, it seems
It's almost done. People are talking.
You know, you didn't have to worry about costing, you know, just the things like that, but. That's just what we did. The dogs, we had played it with the dogs and our dog Stuart. You have to bring Stuart to swim with any dogs. We're gonna take the dog part, and you put there a lot of them on walk together with dogs. So yes, we love the dog. It's really a big hole in my heart. In my past year. And it's bigger hole in my life. Because so much of it is based on my friendships. And sharing all the ups and downs. I felt, and you know, in March, that he called us, he was in the wheelchair for a month. Elissa was already having problems, but she showed up, and walked through. It was hard not being able to share more time. And not being able to, like, things like she could talk. Or I look at it, you know, or emotional sleep about it. My life will be very different, you know. And it's going to be fun. Oh, yeah, boy, there's no, yeah. The next tribute is actually from my sister Sarah. She recorded a video message, and I think, Brandon will get something. Oh, right. It will play. Is it on next? It's on. Oh, they have no sound. It's correct, something in the life without Elissa in it. She's been here as a phone loving and started as a series and completed a second man for as long as I can remember. Our friends knew and loved her too. Our exotic auntie from far away would enjoy with her fruit roll-up, M&Ms, and Mexican recipes at a time when foreign foods were virtually unheard of in little old New Zealand. I will never forget the amazing trips we had as children. Our first time at Disneyland, the amazing Christmas we spent staying with our cousins in Waikato. And later as an adult, I stayed with her many times as good friends of mine. She was always so welcoming and happy to have us here. We were incredibly lucky. The trip she took to London with Auntie Renee and the wonderful Tim and Katie was so very special. I finally felt like I could give something back to her and create a really memorable trip and guiding her and her really close friends through London. That was the best time, and she loved every minute of it. Auntie Mrs. Royalty and Auntie Mrs. loved my mum.
shaped my relationship with my sister, and particularly as a young adult, showed me just how precious it was to have one. Being with her in the final days of life was the hardest and most confronting thing I have faced, but also something amazing that I will never forget. I felt a deep sense of love knowing that she was so very happy to have Mum there and also happy for me to be here. Mum and I were completely blown away by the amazing love and care that Ian, Steve, Andrew, and Uncle Renee were showing and taking care of her. It really was absolutely amazing. She could not have asked for anything better, and she must have been so impressed and so proud of her boys. We were lucky to see the family and the words to times wrapping her with absolute love and care. That's something I will never forget. She would also retain the sense of humour right to the very end, laughing at everyone's jokes and finding it funny when I spilled water on her, whilst trying to be a nurse without much talent. AL number one, you were everything and anything to so many of us. We're there for all the most important days in my life. And a second Nonna to my girls. Sorry. And a very last. Next to Elissa, number 4, as you called it. We will remember you with the fierce and unconditional love that you showed us. The world will be a quiet place without you.
I've got one last message to read out before the conclusion of the celebration of Ellissa's life. This is from my mum Val, who was not able to be here today. Bear with me. That's my ear at heart. Elissa, what a privilege it was to have to spend those last few days with you and my gorgeous sister. Reminiscing about the times we had together and the things that we did together. We talked about our mornings in New Zealand, coffee first, usually 2 cups, before we had to take coffee and a cold cracker. We usually got them out. We were very good short words and I got the long ones. We were forced to be everything. Innumerable fair rides from Hartland Bay to Auckland Central. Bit of retail therapy followed by lunch, usually a dozen oysters on this rail of course, and a bit chunk of delicious Idaho steak, medium rare at that. The ferry trips to Waiheke, always on the lookout for New Zealand arts, t-shirts for your boys and always a hat for Anne. Late afternoons spent overlooking the Blue Bay, glass of wine in hand. These were magical times that we spent together. Never speak of. You are in my heart forever, Elissa. This is your Tom boy signing out. Then I'm very Thank you all very much for being here today. That concludes our service and on behalf of the family, I would like to say thank you so much for seeing you. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys on behalf of all of us, home, that are excused, pay respects to the family, goodbye, this is drive safe, thank you folks.